Hello, friends. As my canoe drifts lazily down the Tigris, I pass the crumbling ruins of ancient villages, once bustling with life, and I can't help wonder, what was it like to be a regular Mesopotamian? Not a king or a warrior, but just your average potter, farmer, or baker, dealing with daily life, nosy neighbors, and probably a lot of goat-related drama. Let's start with home sweet home. Now, if you're picturing grand palaces with marble floors, slow down. Most Mesopotamians lived in simple, rectangular mud brick houses with flat roofs and tiny courtyards, perfect for sunbathing or drying barley. The rich, of course, had multi-room villas, while the poor made do with one-room homes. Privacy? Forget it. Extended families crammed into these small spaces, and your bedroom was probably also your kitchen and storage closet. And speaking of daily life, let me tell you about Mesopotamian mornings. Imagine waking up to the sound of bleating goats and your neighbor shouting, "Hey, your donkey is in my field again." Breakfast? Probably a bowl of barley porridge with dates or onions. Not exactly a gourmet brunch, but it did the job. Once the sun was up, it was time for work, and Mesopotamians took their job seriously. Farmers made up the majority of the population, tending to barley, wheat, and flax in the fertile fields. These folks were early risers, battling the scorching sun while muttering curses at their stubborn oxen. But farming wasn't the only gig in town. If you were crafty, you could become a potter, weaver, or metalworker. Potters spun clay into jars, plates, and figurines, while metalworkers hammered out bronze tools and jewelry. And if you were particularly skilled, you might even score a contract with the temple. Talk about job security. And then there were the scribes, the elite nerds of Mesopotamia. With their wax tablets and styluses, they spent their days writing contracts, recording trades, and creating tax records. Scribe school wasn't for the faint-hearted. It required years of study and a lot of patience for cuneiform grammar tests. Yup, even in ancient times, exams were a pain. Now let's talk society, because Mesopotamians were big on hierarchy. At the top sat the king, who was basically a divine CEO. Next came the priests, who handled religious ceremonies and, of course, hoarded temple wealth. Below them were the nobles and officials, the ancient equivalent of your boss's boss's boss. The majority of people were farmers, artisans, and merchants, forming the hardworking middle class. Then there were the slaves, who were often prisoners of war or debtors. They worked as house servants, laborers, or temple workers. Interestingly, Mesopotamian slavery wasn't always permanent. Some slaves could buy their freedom or be freed by their masters. And what about family life? Mesopotamian society was patriarchal, with men holding most of the legal power. But women weren't entirely powerless. They could own property, run businesses, and file for divorce. Yep, Mesopotamian women were way ahead of their time. Kids? Oh, they weren't spared the chores. Boys learned their father's trade, while girls helped with cooking, weaving, and fetching water. If you were lucky, you might get a basic education. If not, it was off to the fields with you. As I paddle by, I imagine markets buzzing with activity, women bargaining over jars of dates, scribes grumbling over tax records, and laborers complaining about their sunburned shoulders. Daily life might not have been glamorous, but it was rich, complex, and vibrant. But Mesopotamian society wasn't just about daily life. It also had powerful, independent women who left their mark. In the next episode, we'll explore the role of women in Mesopotamia, their rights, responsibilities, and the influential figures who defied the norms. Don't miss it.